Yes, please mute your mics.
Cadet course. What are you doing?
It's just a in uniform.
Good morning, Cadre. Good morning, Miss Angleterra, cadets, and guests. My name is Cadet First Lieutenant McDonald. Today we are gathered here for the 4th Annual Rutgers ROTC POW MIA Remembrance Ceremony, to be directly followed by our 3rd Annual 24-Hour Remembrance Run. Please, while observing this virtual ceremony, ensure that your microphones are muted. To begin, I would like to introduce our Detachment 4E5 Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Smith.
Thank you, Cadet McDonald, and good morning, everyone. The distinctive character of imprisonment in a North Vietnamese prison camp was the suffocating monotony, the pervasive sameness of the routine over and over, day in and day out. Bodies built for movement were confined to closet-like boxes. Active minds were forced to be idle within the numbing nothingness of 4 walls in a dingy little cell. Men trained to fly sophisticated machines at incredible speeds and breathtaking heights were caged like animals. No more horizons to scan, No more clouds to soar above, no more barriers to break through. General Robbie Reisner wrote those words after being held captive for 7.5 years in the Hoa Lo prison, otherwise known as the Hanoi Hilton, during the Vietnam War. National POW MIA Recognition Day was established in 1979 through a proclamation signed by President Jimmy Carter. Since then, each subsequent president has issued an annual proclamation commemorating the third Friday in September as National POW MIA Recognition Day. On this day, we honor the sacrifice of our nation's prisoners of war and missing in action with a traditional black and white flag stating, "You are not forgotten." The flag, while familiar to us now, was actually created many years before the Remembrance Day became official. In 1971, a woman named Mary Hoff contacted a flag company near her home to see if any emblem existed to remind people of POWs and the missing. Like so many others, she waited to see if her husband, Navy Lieutenant Commander Michael Hoff, would ever return home after his plane had been shot down over Laos. World War II pilot Newt Heisley designed the now famous flag. The black and white colors represent the sorrow, anxiety, and hope symbolized by the image of the gaunt man featured on it. For every POW MIA Recognition Day since 1982, the flag has flown just below the Stars and Stripes at the White House, the only flag to ever do so. In 1998, Congress ordered the POW MIA flag displayed on Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, and Veterans Day. Over 138,000 Americans who fought in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War were imprisoned, and 83,000 are still missing. Among those imprisoned included Colonel Joseph Milligan, namesake of our cadet lounge at Det 485. Colonel Joseph Milligan commissioned as a second lieutenant through Air Force ROTC at Rutgers University in 1963. Colonel Milligan was one of the original 12 F-4 Wild Weasel pilots assigned to fly top secret surface-to-air missile hunter-killer missions in North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. As an air commando, he flew clandestine interdiction missions and special forces extraction missions in the T-28 along the Ho Chi Minh Trail in North Vietnam and Laos. On May 20th, 1967, while executing his 113th combat mission, Colonel Milligan provided fighter coverage for a 100-plus fighter bomber formation engaged in a bombing raid on the Kep railroad yards against an overwhelming force of MiG-17s. Despite being outnumbered more than 10-1, he participated in the destruction of 4 enemy aircraft, to include shooting down a MiG-17 preparing to engage Colonel Robert Olds before being forced to eject over North Vietnam. Captured immediately, Colonel Milligan spent a grueling 2,101 days as a POW before being released during Operation Homecoming on February 18th, 1973. Senator John McCain, imprisoned for 5 years in the Hanoi Hilton, said this in his memoirs. "In prison, I fell in love with my country. I had loved her before then, but like most young people, my affection was little more than a simple appreciation for the comforts and privileges most Americans enjoyed and took for granted. It wasn't until I had lost America for a time that I realized how much I loved her." Cadre cadets, Miss Engelterra, and honored guests, today we honor the sacrifice of our nation's prisoners of war and missing in action and carry on their sacred memory so they may never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Smet, for your words. For over 243 years of our nation's history, brave men and women of the United States of America have dedicated their lives to defend her from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. There are memorials to these men and women all over Rutgers, from the 3 flagpoles located at Old Queens in memory of the Rutgers class of 1916, who served in World War I, to the Vietnam War Memorial in Scott Hall on the College Avenue campus. In defense of our nation, many of these men and women have ventured far from American shores, never to have returned home. We gathered here today to remember these Americans, who due to imprisonment by the enemy or by the chaos and calamity of war, have been prevented from returning home. We remember the sacrifices they've made to ensure that we remain free and an independent people. We remember their family and friends who joined us in the wait for their return. We remember those who have worked tirelessly to bring them home. Lastly, but most certainly not least, remember the reason why we must remember why we cannot and why we cannot give up on our comrades. for they have put their full faith and trust in our country, their country, the United States of America, a country made by our people, for our people, and of our people. Thus, as Americans, we have been entrusted by our servicemen and servicewomen. We must reciprocate their trust in us and have full faith and trust in the future as well, and their return home safe. We'll now hold the missing man table ceremony, executed by Cadet Connor O'Leary, Cadet Matthew Lionetti, Cadet Adam Warner, and Cadet Michael Kerwin. Cadets, please stand at attention. Guests, please stand.
This table is set for our prisoners of war and those missing in action from all wars. They are not with us today. Their chairs are empty, but saved for their hoped return. Let us remember their absence. Let us remember the United States Army. Let us remember the United States Marine Corps. Let us remember the United States Navy. Let us remember the United States Air Force. Let us remember the men and women who have become prisoners of war from all branches of service that are too often forgotten. Let us remember them. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms, so that their children could remain free. Remember. The lone candle symbolizes the frailty of a prisoner alone, trying to stand up against his oppressors. Remember. The yellow ribbon on the candle reminds us of those who will not be coming home. Remember. The single rose reminds us of the loved ones and families of our comrades in arms who keep the faith and await their return. Remember. A slice of lemon is on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter fate if we do not bring them home. Remember. There is salt on the plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait and remember. The glasses are inverted. They cannot toast with us tonight. Maybe tomorrow, if we remember. The red, white, and blue ribbon is tied to the flower vase by a yellow ribbon that was worn by thousands who awaited their return. Remember. The faded picture on the table is a reminder that they are missed very much and are remembered by their families. Remember. As we look upon this empty table, do not remember ghosts from the past. Remember our comrades. Remember those whom we depended on in battle. They depend on us to bring them home. Remember our friends. They are the ones we love, who love life and freedom as we do. They will remember what we do. Please honor and remember them. Today, soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen are better trained and equipped than ever before. Although we are the most powerful force on Earth, we are powerless without the support of our loved ones. This support grants us unmatched superiority. In turn, we willingly burden ourselves to hold up the pillars of freedom from those who threaten it. When our nation loses a service member, we remember. When one of our own goes missing, we never forget. When disaster strikes our homeland, we defend and protect. When our nation calls, we answer. We will never lose sight of our one true endeavor, protecting America's freedom. This year, I would ask that you continue to reflect on the significance of this ceremony. I ask that you take a few moments out of your daily struggles to remember why you are here, and of those that have come before us. Keep in mind the fallen and their families. We remember.
Please be seated. Thank you, Honor Guard. This year, we will be dedicating each hour of the 24-hour Remembrance Run to American service members throughout our nation's history who have faced hardships coming back home or who did not have the opportunity to do so. Today's ceremony is dedicated to the Rutgers alumni and prisoner of war, Colonel Joe Milligan. After ejecting on his 113th mission while flying over North Vietnam from Thailand, Colonel Milligan was captured by the North Vietnamese forces and held as a prisoner of war. Despite hardship, Colonel Milligan remained resilient and faithful to his commitment. He was quoted as saying, "If I had to do it all over again, I'd still volunteer to go," he said. "I have no regrets, and I'm not bitter about anything. I would truly consider myself privileged to have the opportunity to serve my country. It's been a big impact on the rest of my life. I lived through an experience that few people have and hope they never would have to, but it shaped me as an individual." Colonel Milligan was held captured for 5 years and 9 months before he was released on February 18th, 1973. With us today is Miss Angleterra. Please give her a warm welcome as she says a few words.
Ms. Angleterra, are you with us? Your mic might be off.
Please stand by for slight technical difficulties.
And for everybody's awareness, last year's ceremony was really incredible. It was a beautiful day. The honor guard did an amazing job, and it was really something to see. As soon as the ceremony was over, the running began. So the cadets were already pre-positioned and they started running with the flag. So I remember doing this when I was a cadet at the University of Texas. We ran from Austin to San Antonio with the POW flag along the highway. And kind of like when you're at Group PT, you get a little fire in you when your teammates and your flight mates are cheering you on. So it was great to be running down the highway and you've got people honking at you and waving their support, which was fantastic. So hopefully you get a little bit of that during daylight hours this time. And then hopefully by next year, we can do something on a much larger scale. Okay, while we wait for a few more minutes for the technical difficulties, I will share with you a story about my dad. He was a Vietnam veteran. He fought in the 101st Airborne it was 1966. He was parachuting down and he was shot 3 times, once through the arm and twice through the chest. He fell down and then knew what would happen if he was taken into captivity. So at that point, he just laid motionless. The enemy came upon him, stabbed him in the guts, and left him there to die. So, at that point, he's got to make a decision about what he's going to do. So he made a conscious decision not to die, okay, or else I wouldn't be here talking to you. Somehow made his way back to his unit and spent about a year in the hospital with his wounds. And I remember when I was young, I would grow up and I would sometimes see the scars and I go, "Dad, what happened to you?" And he'd go, "I got attacked by a bear. I got attacked by a bear." So we never really talked about what happened. It was only years later that I learned what had happened to him, but that really struck me. Captain Scott O'Grady shot down in his F-16, evaded capture and was eventually rescued by rescue units. And he said that the worst day evading is going to be better than your best day in captivity. Certainly, we remember our prisoners of war and missing in action, and know that their sacrifice won't be forgotten. So this day has special meaning to me, and I'm glad that that my dad made it out.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Smith. Ms. Enkeltera will actually be calling in just 1 second. She was unfortunately having audio issues due to Zoom, of course. It's tough. It's tough in this trying time with the pandemic, but seems like we're all making it through so far technologically.
So I'll share one more quick story. If I get cut off and Ms. Engelterra comes on, great, I will certainly drop off. So I shared this story yesterday with the cadre. My grandfather likewise served in World War II. He was serving in Germany, and he was a Jeep driver, and he drove around the old man, and the old man was General Patton. And my grandfather was driving his Jeep one day, and he was shot in the head by a German sniper who actually wasn't aiming at him. He was aiming at the old man. So my grandfather was taken away. And he had a titanium plate put in his head. He had a horseshoe-shaped scar on his head till the day that he died. And unfortunately, Patton's replacement Jeep driver was the one that killed him. Patton died in a Jeep accident. So my grandfather, who had a scar in his head, and my dad, who had scars all over his body, when it was time for my turn to serve, I said, which branch of service should I join? And they both go, the Air Force. So here I am in the United States Air Force.
Everyone, thank you for your patience. We have Ms. Engelterra on the phone with us right now.
Good morning. I am so happy to be with all of you today to mark National POW MIA Recognition Day 2020 and to represent the 40 POW MIA families from New Jersey and the National League of POW MIA Families, the first and oldest organization of its kind in America's history, founded in 1970 as a tax-exempt nonprofit. I bring greetings from our family member board of directors, volunteers like me, and especially our family members who are still waiting for an answer on what happened to their loved ones from the Vietnam War. There are 1,586 still unaccounted for from the Vietnam War. Today is National POW MI Recognition Day. It's a day to set aside to pay tribute, honor, and remember those who did not return from the war in Southeast Asia. Whether they were at last known to be prisoners of war, killed in action, body not recovered, or missing in action. In normal times, Americans all across the nation would gather to hold observance or ceremonies by veterans organizations or concerned citizens and our ROTC partners. To say that COVID-19 has dampened our normal everyday lives would be an understatement. Everything Tom and I are doing this year is virtually, except for one annual event in the city of Edison that I will be speaking at today in person. Still, U.S. military bases and ships across the world will have ceremonies today. We all thank you for this ceremony. You have adapted and adjusted to the present environment. I do want to give a special thank you to First Lieutenant Matthew McDonald for inviting me to participate today and for his coordination with me. The coronavirus has been dampened our efforts to conduct investigations, excavations, and surveys into possible battled grave sites, crash sites, and interviews with citizens in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, as Vietnam is experiencing their second wave of COVID-19. We only had one identification since last year at this time from the Vietnam War. Here are the numbers of the unaccounted for veterans and the wars they fought in. In World War II, there was 72,579. In Vietnam, there was 1,500.
We still have to wait for.
In Korea, they had 7,578. The Cold War was 126, and the Gulf War was 6. We have a sacred trust, a sacred promise made to our military service members, past, present, and future, that if something should happen to you, if you are held in enemy hands, if you are missing, Americans will act to find out details and will act to get you accounted for. If your family calls, we haul. But there's something we can all do besides honoring and remembering. We all can help get answers. Please contact your congressional leaders in the House and the Senate and tell them that you want them to stay focused on the fullest possible accounting of those unaccounted for veterans, especially from Vietnam. Call their local offices, email them, send them a letter. They are the ones who fund our Defense Department accounting operations. And if they need to stay engaged in the mission to account from the Vietnam War, the fullest possible accounting. After all, dying for your country isn't the worst thing. Being forgotten is. Just as the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots. It is a high honor for me to address you today, to give you my perspective on this important issue. I will end now with 3 short sentences that sums this issue up for me. America raised them, America sent them, and America wants them back. Thank you, and God bless all of you in Detachment 485 AFROTC at Rutgers University, and God bless this determined nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Inglaterra. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you so much, all of you, and God bless you all.
Thank you on behalf of Detachment 485. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Ms. Inglaterra, for those kind words. And thank you once again, Lieutenant Colonel Smith. At this time, we go to the Detachment 485, where we will begin our 24-hour remembrance run and workout. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we were not able to gather together in person at University Park as we normally will. So with that, we go to Detachment 45 for the first hour at dedication. Go.
U.S. Army Colonel Floyd James Thompson. He's the longest held American POW in history for 9 years, over 3,000 days in a POW camp. Moment of silence. Thank you.
Okay, First Lieutenant McDonnell, you are muted.
Thank you, Cadet Colonel Benassi. These flags will be run around College Avenue all through today up until 1930, correction. As unfortunately, due to the recent violence in around Rutgers University, we cannot continue overnight. However, we will still be holding our calisthenics workouts virtually. Thank you everyone for attending today's virtual ceremony. Please remember and think about the sacrifices those who didn't return have made. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy your weekend.
Great job, everyone. Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Looking forward to the POW MIA run.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Lieutenant Colonel Smith, thanks for picking up the slack there with the technical difficulties. Yeah, great ceremony, everybody. Have a great weekend.